Liza Bournet, the assistant web editor of BookPage, and today we're talking to Tom Franklin about his new novel, Crooked Letter, Crooked Letter. Tom has written a book of short stories, Poachers, and a couple of novels, Smunk and Hell at the Breach, and he teaches creative writing at Ole Miss. And we are very excited to be talking to him today because Crooked Letter, Crooked Letter has been in the news a lot lately, gotten a ton of positive reviews, and when we blogged about it last week, our readers were very excited. So it's in time for the Southern Festival of Books, and thank you so much for stopping by BookPage today.
I'm glad to be here, Liza. Thanks for talking to me.
So first of all, if you could just start by Crooked Letter. Crooked Letter just came out last week.
Last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday. So many of our readers probably haven't had a chance to read it yet. So if you could just give a plot description, kind of run down the basics of the characters and what your book's about.
It's about two friends, Larry Ott and Silas Jones. Silas 32 Jones. 32 is his baseball number. Mm-hmm. They're friends briefly as boys for 3 months. Silas is black, Larry's white. And something happens, and Silas leaves town, and Larry is blamed for a girl's disappearance. He takes her to the drive-in movie, and she's never seen again. And he lives the next 20 years under the shadow of this crime that he may or may not have committed. No one really knows. And Silas leaves, plays baseball at Ole Miss, joins the Navy, sees the world, comes back 20 years later as a constable of a nearby town. And another girl disappears. Larry is blamed again. And Silas feels himself drawn back into this, and he and Larry have to face what happened a long time ago together.
Well, I think that readers hearing about this book, one of the first questions that they'll have, and probably one of the first questions that you get, is about the title, Crooked Letter, Crooked Letter. And I am from Arkansas, and to me, I recognize it immediately as the rhyme, that M-I, crooked letter, I, crooked letter, I, humpback, I. But as I've been reading this book over the past week, friends will see it and they'll ask me what it is, and I'll say, well, does M-I, crooked letter mean anything to you? And most of them say no. So I wondered why you chose this as the title, and if you knew that from the beginning that this would be the title, and also if you had to fight with your New York publishers to get such a sort of obscure southern rhyme as the title of your novel.
I was writing this book back in 2003, or trying to write it in 2003, and not having any success, and my novel Smunk just rudely interrupted that and demanded to be wrote, so I wrote it, demanded to be written. So I wrote it, and I came back to this one. It had no title. I wasn't sure what it was about, but I wanted to write about a small town police officer, and I wanted to write about a mechanic who had no customers. Because I know of a garage, whenever I passed it as a kid, it would be open, the mechanic was there, but nobody ever went to get their car fixed. And that just really struck me and stayed with me. So at some point I put these two together. Silas is, the police officer, Larry's the mechanic, but it's still, it was set in Alabama, as all of my other books have been set. But then
you're from Alabama.
I'm from Alabama, yeah. And then at some point I thought, why does someone use Crooked Letter as a title? Because it sounds like an Elmore Leonard title to me, and like a crime novel. So I thought, well, I'm going to use it. At which point I slid the whole book into Mississippi from Alabama, and because it's such a Mississippi title, it couldn't be set in Alabama.
Well, I love how one of the characters actually refers to Mississippi as, I'm back in the Crooked Letter.
Yeah.
And I have never heard that before.
I heard that one of my students said that once. Welcome to the Crooked Letter.
Huh.
And I thought that's kind of cool. But your other question, did I have to fight? Fight's the wrong word, but my agent worried that foreign publishers wouldn't know what it meant, and they don't. So foreign sales have been harder because of that strange title. But I just really wanted this title, and so they let me have it.
Well, you said that you shifted it from Alabama to Mississippi, and I was wondering if it was just a matter of changing place names, or if there are aspects of this book that are very Mississippi. Could the story have taken place in, the setting is very important, this small kind of run-down town, and certainly in many states across the South there are towns similar to that, but, besides the title, I guess, are there other things that make this a Mississippi book?
Really, no. It's a southern book, but honestly, Southwest Alabama and Southeast Mississippi are really similar in landscape. So I didn't cite it very far, only a few miles. It's set on, it's near the border of Alabama. So I just wanted to hedge my bets. you know, because I know that landscape so well. But I think a lot of south in it, you know, but people who read it say it feels like Mississippi, which is where I live now, so I do know the landscape.
Well, I think it was an essay you wrote for Pal's blog, describing how many similarities there are between your life and Larry Ott's life. Your father was a mechanic, and so was Larry's, and even the drive-in date scene was inspired by something that happened, minus the girl disappearing.
Right.
And could you tell us, you know, a little bit about, you know, how you and Larry are similar and where the similarities end, and then also if there are other stories that have showed up in your life that found their way into this book.
This is by far my most autobiographical book, and it shocked me how much Larry and I have in common. You're right, we're both mechanic sons, both unpopular, we both loved Stephen King as kids. I still love Stephen King. And things also that happened to Larry, or rather things that happened to me, happened to Larry, and it surprised me. Another thing is Larry has a monster mask. It's a zombie, and
it shows up in the beginning of the book in a creepy way.
Yeah, and it comes back later. I had the same mask, and I worked at school one day in a failed attempt to be popular, and you know, I didn't have very many friends, and I found it, and they invited me that night to a haunted house that they were putting on at a Baptist church. It was Halloween, and I went and scared people for like 3 hours in my room, in my mask and a sheet. And when I came out after, I realized, wow, these people from school hang out after school. They all know each other. They're all friends outside of school. And I was friends really with maybe one or two of them. I lived far out in the country. And that made me really sad. And I stood there hoping to get invited to a group to talk and hang out, and nobody invited me. I stood there for a while. Then I turned and walked slowly away, thinking they'd call, come back, Tommy, come back. They didn't call me back. And then I got in my car. First I stood like I couldn't find my car. Maybe they'll still see me, call me back. Then I got in the car, sat there for a while. They'll come get me. They never did. I drove home alone. So, you know, all these sad things that happened to me happened to Larry as well. And there are a lot of others. But, you know, I did go to the drive-in with a girl, but she didn't disappear.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it is. She's still with us.